بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أما بعد Al-Kaba'ir السادس والستون. The author says number 66, major sin number 66. He says here, من خصى عبده أو جدعه أو عذبه ظلما وبغيا. He says here, anyone who castrates his slave or he mutilates him or her, tortures and punishes them out of injustice, wrongfully. Major sin number 66, he says, if you have a servant, a slave, someone that you own legislatively, and you obviously speaking about a male initially, is to castrate the slave. He says, or jada'ahu, to cut off the slave's ear, or his foot, or his arm, or his toe, or his nose. Any type of major mutilation in which you're cutting and severing something from his original body or her original body. أو عذبه ظلما وبغيا, or just crosses the boundaries and totally just, manifests this major dhulm, this evil and wrongdoing with regards to someone that Allah Azza wa Jal has tested you and tested him or her by making you in charge of them. Pay close attention now. This is a very important concept of slavery inside and outside of Islam. Just like the concept of wealth and poverty, the concept of someone being noble, someone being ignoble, the concept of royalty, the concept of peasantry. Allah has made a fitna for the rich and the poor. It's a fitna, it's a test, a trial. And it's not necessarily a superiority thing or a good thing or a bad thing. If you're my master, Allah has given you a what?
Responsibility.
A fitna, not a responsibility, a fitna. Allah is testing you by giving you the ability to do harm or benefit as you wish with your hands over me. That's a what? It's a fitna. Everybody understand this? If I want to kill you, I can kill you. If I want to give you life, I can give you life. I want you to reproduce, get married. I want to castrate you, I can castrate you. It's in my what? It's in my hand. That type of power, wielding that power over another human being is a what? Is a fitna. And the one who's in the possession, I'm your slave, I'm your servant. I have to bear your will, your choice. If you wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day, you have a toothache, you're angry, you're upset, you get into an argument with your wife, I have to deal with however you're going to treat me. That's a what? That's a fitna. That I'm supposed to act and behave in a certain manner with regards to the necessary sabr or whatever the case may be. This is a very important concept of having wealth and having someone who is beneath you financially. That's a fitna. Everybody understand this? That's a fitna. Everybody understands what are you going to do with the money and what are you going to do with not having the money? Everybody clear on this? What are you going to do with the power and what are you going to do with someone who has the power over you? It takes a what? It's a fitna. And the person who's wealthy or the person who's an owner or a master or who's noble or knowledgeable, whatever the level of superiority in this worldly life, don't think that the one who is inferior outwardly, the one who is beneath, don't think that their position is easier just because they have the upper hand. Or don't think that they live a happier life because they have wealth or because they're in charge of someone or a man wields power and influence over other men. It does not necessitate that what? He lives happily. Rather, in most cases, it's the opposite for several reasons. For what? Several reasons. Obviously, from the most outward of those reasons is just emptiness of life. I have money, I have power, I have riches, I have royal palace. I have people who clean my backside when I use the bathroom and put on my socks and my shoes. But I don't have a true friend. I had to marry this woman that I hate, I detest. I don't like the way she looks, talks, smells, walks, sleeps. But I had to what? Marry her. Everybody understand this? I have to sit in front of these people and lie and have them lie to me. I have to sit in front of these people with 2 and 3, 4 faces. And the list goes on of major psychological hammer blows that these people have to deal with, which is a daily reality. Everybody understand this? Khairan inshallah. Now, what's important is the concept of someone being above you is a fitna for the one who's above and the one who's what? Below. Everybody understand this? Inside of Islam and what? Outside of Islam. Everybody clear on this? Everybody wants to be the boss until he actually what? No doubt. Make hard decisions. Bear the responsibility, the stress, the problems. It's a reality. So therefore, as we've explained in other classes, in other lectures, and as people who are more knowledgeable than us have explained in detail, the concept of servitude and the concept of slavery in Islam. One of the hot topics of 2017, one of the major points of controversy regarding Islam, with regards to the Sharia, with regards to Sharia law, with regards to terrorism, with regards to the Islamic State, with regards to progressive Muslims, modern Muslims, and the list goes on. Some Muslims, unfortunately, I don't know if I can even say Muslim, they say there's no slavery. There's no such thing as that in Islam. That doesn't exist. The verses talking about slavery is not really talking about slavery. Slavery was abolished in the United States, in the 19th century, Well, that's what was officially. But slavery remained for many years after that. In one form or what? Or another. Slavery in South America was abolished when? Anybody know?
1830.
1830. When was slavery abolished in South America? In Brazil? When? Later or earlier? طيب. Khair inshallah. What was the reason why slavery being abolished in America? Or not even that. It's deeper than that. Before slavery being abolished, طيب. No history lessons right now. Moving forward. Moving along, as we say. So therefore, the concept of slavery in Islam, some people say that there's no slavery in Islam. It's haram to have a slave. There's no such thing as slavery. And then there's some people who say that there is slavery in Islam, as it says in the Quran. And anybody and anything, any place, anywhere can become my slave, especially my sex slave, my concubine. That's the hot topic, where many Muslims have a problem gulping and swallowing. And then there are some who are in the middle who say, look, it's just this simple. I'm a Muslim. I don't make the rules, but I do what? Follow them. I accept them. There are many things in the Quran, rather the layman Muslims are going to say that most things in the Quran I don't what? Understand. But I believe that it is the word of Allah. And I submit to it. Just like there are many things in the Quran that I don't implement on a daily basis. And I haven't seen, I have not experienced, whether it's something that's going to come in the future, something that was in the past, or something that's in a different country or over a different level. And the same applies to what? Slavery. If slavery is in the Quran, it does not mean or does not necessarily I myself have to have a slave. Or my personal preference. But I'm a Muslim and I what?
Believe.
I submit to that and I believe to that. Whether it applies to me, my town, my place or not. Everybody understand this? And any other foreign and alien concepts have nothing to do with my submission and my acceptance of the words of my Lord. Everybody understand this? Whether it is beat women, domestic abuse, slavery, everybody clear on this or not? Wars, fighting, killing, what else goes on? Everybody understand this or not? All foreign elements have nothing to do with my what? My faith, my submission. My cup is what? It's empty, then it's full. Everybody understand this? So we've explained that, and other people have explained that as well. And the bottom line is that, as we said before, Islam was never meant to be politically correct. Rather, the ways of the non-Muslims before this modern age were never meant to be politically correct. Just lately, they changed their policies on gays, on Jews, on people of color. They just changed their policies within a short span of time. If you go back 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, you read their history, and they're conquering and colonizing and enslaving, and the list goes on, of women, white women. Everybody understand this? Catholics in this country. So that's not, point the finger, and it's not about defending Islam with too cool K or no. But you don't have the right to talk. Before we even have to defend Islam, slavery, you don't have no criticism to make about anybody. You need to worry about the skeletons in your closet, the blood on your hands, the nations that you've reaped and raped of their resources and continue to this day. Then you can come and talk about the Quran and Sharia law. After you've made reparations to all of those countries that you've wronged and oppressed. The Scots, the Irish, people that were not of what?
Muslim.
Color. Everybody understand this? You gave reparations to those people that you've wronged, and then you can come and talk about what? What Islam has to say about slavery and jihad and hitting women, and the list goes on. Everybody understand this or not? It's a very important concept, especially the Muslims in college. I'm Talib and MSAs, who unfortunately, most of them, if not many of them, have inherited Islam. Most of the people that talk about these different issues are not reverts to Islam. There are some, but most of them have inherited Islam. And the sad reality is many of them their Islam, their practice of Islam, their understanding of Islam is based off of inheritance, and that's it. But actual faith and belief and submission is different. They've been raised in this country. They've been fed. They've been taught. They've been nourished. They've been bred on a system. And whatever that system stuffs them and feeds them, most of them will accept blindly. And a comfortable lifestyle comes with one total package. And it's disguised as tolerance or balance or moderation. And then the list goes on of names and words that they use to get you to accept and reject certain things. Khairan, inshallah. So that's with regards to the concept of slavery. It says here, those who castrate their slaves or cut them or punish them, wrongfully oppress them. Everybody understand this? Another very important part of history, which we don't want to get too deep to right now, is what many people have based their faith on with regards to American slavery, Southern slavery, the Atlantic slave trade, the African slave trade, so on and so forth. That's a very long story. Many people accepted Islam because of this. But what would their faith be? What would their Islam be if they found out that in the East, they were the Muslims and the Arabs and the Turks were the people who gave the concept of mass slavery to the Western countries? Everybody understand this? This is very serious. Your faith has to be based off because you believe Islam is the truth, not based off of what a Muslim does or what someone who claims to be a Muslim does. Everybody understand this? There were wrongs and ills that were committed in the name of Islam, in the name of what? The cross. Everybody understand this? There were Christians who enslaved people, and there were what? Muslims who enslaved people. Rather, and the reality is reality, and the truth is said, no matter who likes it or doesn't like it. There were many, not all, but there were many atrocities that were committed in the Middle East and the Far East and the African continent and other continents with regards to slavery that were far worse than the Southern slavery, such as mass castration. Everybody understand? Such as what? Not little scale what? Mass castration. In most cases, the people, they wanted the slaves to reproduce. They wanted slaves to get married or to commit fornication and adultery. They wanted the slaves to reproduce. That was more wealth. That was more stock for the master. And oftentimes in the Middle East, they preferred eunuchs. Slaves that were physically what? Maimed. Didn't have no sexual ability, whether it's for someone's harem, looking over his concubines, or whether it was someone that already came from a distant land. He came from East Africa. He's down in Turkey. Okay, he has no family, no cousins, no brothers, no sisters. He has no lineage, nothing. Nor can he ever be with a woman. Nor does he have any type of real sexual desire. Nor does he have any hope for children and any type of future for his name. So in most cases, a slave like this is going to be what? Castrated. No, he's been castrated, but he's going to be what? What's going to be his demeanor? He's going to be extremely loyal and docile and mentally and physically what? Broken. Everybody understand this? And this wasn't the case. And this is why in many countries such as Iraq, such as Turkey, such as Jordan, wherever you go, the people of color are very, 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 very small. Very, very limited number. You say, where were all these people there? Whether they were the indigenous people, whether they were brought there, whatever the case may be, where are they? But in America, that's not what? It's not the case. Black people are everywhere. Famous, rich, prestigious, this, and that. It's not the case overseas. One of the reasons behind this is that the slaves here were not what? It wasn't a what? Mass castration. Over there, what? It was. And they wanted women. They would allow, a slave could be from anywhere, of course. It doesn't have to be from Africa, the African continent. Slaves came from Poland, all those Eastern European countries. Everybody understand this? Italy, Spain. All right, all of these, the Black Sea, all of those places there were slaves from, all right, the Far East. But right now we're just talking about a comparison of African slaves. So oftentimes they would have the women, they would prefer the women, and they would reproduce. Obviously it will be a mixed child of a mixed race, and the complexion and pigmentation, and eventually that lineage would what? Thin itself out. It would what? It would thin itself, it will go away. But in the South, it wasn't what? Wasn't like that. Everybody understand this? So if you base your faith off of this is why I became a Muslim, because I read about the horrors of slavery in Alabama and in Georgia. And you read that about the Muslims who prayed, who fasted, who made jihad, who did this to their slaves in abundance. You're going to have a what? Major problem. And you may apostate from Islam. Everybody understand the point? So oppression is oppression. Atrocity is atrocity. And the haqq is the what? The haqq, no matter who does it, black, white, yellow, or red, east or west. Everybody understand this or not? Khairan, inshallah? Everybody understand this? So many of the Muslims, they didn't castrate the slaves themselves, but it was a high demand for castrated slaves. So I'm not going to do it. It's haram for me to do it, but I'm going to tell you, the Christian, hey, listen, I need 100 castrated slaves. But the Christians are going to do what? They're going to castrate the slaves and they're going to say, here's your product. How many people died because of the blood loss, because of infection, because of the trauma to the body? Only Allah knows. What statistics say is a horrible number of people that died in the sub-Saharan journey to the coast, to this country. It's a long story if you read that in the books of history. What's important is Islam is based off of the Quran and the Sunnah. And it's not based off of an emperor. It's not based off of a sultan. It's not based off of a king. Everybody understand this? If you wish to criticize Islam, then you have to criticize what? The orthodox sources, and not what this person did. Everybody understand this? Not what this what? Person. Everybody understand this or not? The permissibility of having a woman and she's your concubine in Islam, does that mean that you now have 100 of them or 70 of them? Does that mean that you have a palace full of women? Is that what the Sharia is talking about? Oh, ma malakat aymanukum. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear with this or not? Everybody understand this? So Islam says that you cannot castrate a what? A slave. That's haram in Islam. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. Everybody understand this introduction? This is very important. The author, he says, قال الله تعالى مخبرا عن إبليس ولأضلنهم ولأمنينهم ولآمرنهم فليبتكن آذان الأنعام ولآمرنهم فليغيرن خلق الله. Allah says, talking about Iblis, and a promise that Iblis made to Allah. He made a promise to Allah, saying the following words. Number one, وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ. He says, I will surely mislead them. Talking about the slaves, the sons of Adam. Is I will what? Mislead them for sure. He swore to Allah. He then says, وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ. And I will give them all types of false hope. I will give them illusion and delusion. I will get them to hope and to feel and expect. But it's a trick, it's a lie. Everybody understand this? Make them false hopes and false promises. He says, وَلَآمُرَنَّهُمْ. And indeed I will inspire them, and I will whisper to them, and I will tell them, and they will فَلِيُبَتِّكُنَّ أَذَانَ الْأَنْعَامِ. He says, and they will clip, they will poke, they will slice the ears of cattle. In other words, they will disfigure and they will maim Allah's what? Creation. For their shirk and kufr reasons. Everybody understand this? They would split the ears of a cow for no reason. That's causing pain and injury to the animal without what? Without reason. He says here, and indeed they will change Allah's creation. Indeed they will what? Change Allah's creation. So you take a man and you smash his testicles, twist them off, cut off his penis and his testicles, you remove all his genitalia, you have done what? Change Allah's creation. Everybody clear on this? Khair, inshallah. Now, also included in this verse, Shaykh Khan from Surah An-Nisa, some people say, Allah, someone could say, maybe this verse pertains to certain issues of tattoos and certain issues of piercing. Certain piercing. Having an earring is permissible in the Sunnah. As the hadith says, they threw their earrings in Bilal's garment as sadaqah. Having an earring is one thing. Or maybe even a nose ring. But different types of piercings of the ear, higher up on the ear, bars and all types of outlandish piercing. Many people, they say that's included what? And it's the concept of splitting the ear. You have a normal earring, it's what? Simple. Then you have a big, gigantic, fat metal bar and this type of thing that goes through the bottom up to the top. That's what? It's a bit different. You've now split the ear. Everybody understand this or not? How this ayah is used? What some of them say with regards to certain types of what? Piercings. Piercings. So in tattoos is a specific hadith on that. But that's also changing the creation of Allah as well. He then says, قَالَ بَعْضُ الْمُفَسِّرِينَ هُوَ الْخِصَاء. He says, some of the ulama of tafsir, they say this ayah means castration. They say that Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about what? Castration. Everybody understand this? From Surah An-Nisa. He then says, وَرُوِيَ عَنِ الْحَسَنِ عَنْ سَمُرَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من قتل عبده قتلناه ومن جدع عبده جدعناه. هذا خبر صحيح. Hasan al-Basri narrates from Samurah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, anyone who murders his slave, we will execute him. If you kill your slave, then he will be what? He'll be executed. And he who cuts his slave, we will cut him. He says this hadith is authentic. So this is just one hadith, which among many others shows the difference and the lack of parallel between slavery in the movies and the books, and China and Mongolia and Alabama, and the slavery in the Sharia. You can do whatever you wanted to do to your slave in certain countries in the South. Kill them, maim them, rape them, do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Everybody understand this? The slave could be married. And if you force yourself sexually upon that woman, then that's considered what? Rape. Not your own concubine. The misunderstanding of those people. Everybody understand this? Because she is your property legislatively. Everybody understand this? You with me, Talib? So you can do whatever you want as long as you own the person. Here in Islam, if you kill your slave, what are you going to be what? You're going to be executed. Justice. Soul for a soul. And it says what? And he who cuts or maims the slave, the Prophet says we will what? We will do that to him. وروى قتادة عن الحسن عن سمرة مرفوعا من أخصى عبده أخصيناه. He says Qatada narrates from Hasan al-Basri from Samra that the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, he who castrates his slave, we will castrate him. So just think about that. All right? If you maim and disfigure your slave, the same thing what? Will happen to you. وصح الحاكم فأخطأ حديثا في حدود متنه من مثل بعبده فهو هر. He says there's another hadith which is not necessarily the most authentic, but it states anyone who maims his slave, anyone who disfigures his slaves, he says what? The slave will be what? Free. He will be emancipated. That is his reward of being emancipated. He then says, وفي الصحيحين من قذف مملوكه بالزنا أقيم عليه الحد يوم القيامة. In Bukhari and Muslim it states, anyone who accuses his slave of being a fornicator or fornicatress, on the day of judgment, he will receive the punishment of slander. The master will receive the what? The punishment of slander. وآخر ما حفظ عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الصلاة وما ملكت أيمانكم اتقوا الله فيما ملكت أيمانكم. Listen carefully to this hadith. He says, and the last thing that the Prophet ﷺ is recorded to have said before he died, the following words: as-salah, as-salah. The prayer, the prayer. Look after the prayer. Pray on time. Pray in the masjid. Don't forget about the prayer. Look after the prayer. His last advice. And he says, and take care of what you have in your right hands. In other words, be kind, just, and fair to your what? To your right hand, but to your slaves. Everybody understand this? This one hadith shatters all of the misunderstandings with regards to what you see, what you hear about slavery and slavery in Islam. Even though the word is what? The same. And some concepts are clearly the same. But the Prophet explicitly said what? Treat them what? Kindly. So someone who is inhumane, someone who has psychiatric issues, someone who's a psychopath with regards to his slaves and does all types of things and takes out their pain and their frustration and their anger and their jealousy over their slaves, that cannot be the standard of the Sharia. That's that person's problem, and not what Muhammad said and encouraged to the last of his words. Everybody understand this? He then says, rahimahullah, وفي مسند أحمد من حديث ابن عمر رضي الله عنه نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن إخصاء الخيل والبهائم. He says in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, the Prophet ﷺ has said, and it was narrated, Ibn Umar said, the Prophet ﷺ said, he forbade castrating a horse or any other types of animals. It's haram to castrate any type of what? Animal. Or to sterilize a what? Any type of animal. If you can't do this to an animal, then what about a human being? Everybody understand this? Okay, so this hadith also teaches us what the people cry and claim today about animal rights. About what? Animal rights. Islam does not look after animals. There are animal rights in Islam, but based off of Islam. And taking a razor-sharp blade to the animal's neck and saying Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, and removing the necessary things that have to be removed, and the blood pouring out and gushing forth with the intention of eating the flesh, eating the meat, in the name of Allah, sacrificing for Allah, is not a violation of animal rights in Islam. According to the kuffar, the modern people, maybe. But us, we don't consider that what? A violation of animal rights. Beating the animal, branding the animal in his face, unnecessarily hitting the animal, that is clearly what? Everybody understands? And this is the rule with any concept and aspect of the deen. Women's rights. In Islam, if you say, does Islam support women's rights? We say yes, but not how you want it to be. A woman has the right to divorce when she wants to. A woman does not have to seek permission before she leaves the house. A woman can do this. She inherits more than a man, have much. No. That's not. If that's what you mean, then there's no what? There's no women's rights in Islam. But if you mean she's a human being, to be respected, to be honored, to be loved, to be fed, to be provided with shelter, to be taught, to be educated, to allow to have this and that. Then we say, yes, there's women's rights in Islam. Everybody understand this or not? Everybody clear on this or not? So therefore, we have to be very mindful of the different words and terms that are thrown and hurled against Islam in 2017. And you can never go wrong by breaking down the terminology. Everybody understand this? What is immoral? It's immoral in America, not in Russia. It's immoral in Brazil, but it isn't immoral in Peru. Which country has the dominant say? So we can never go wrong by following and submitting what's in the Quran and what's in the Sunnah. Everybody understand this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. May Allah protect us from this.